Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a legacy that literally redefined the entire landscape of modern sports. We're talking about the 1996 U.S. Women's Olympic basketball team.
Exactly. And this isn't just your standard really good team manages to win a gold medal type of story. Not at all. It's the story of the highest stakes tournament in the history of women's hoops. I mean, the reverberations of what they pulled off in Atlanta, we are still feeling them today, from local high school gyms all the way up to the WNBA. Literally, everything was on the line for this one squad.
To really get it, we have to look at the immense, almost impossible pressure placed on these players. Just ask yourself, what if the fate of an entire professional sport rested on one single tournament?
It honestly sounds like a Hollywood movie script, right? But it was their actual reality. Behind the scenes, there was this ultimate hoops ultimatum. Nothing less than the future of professional women's basketball in the United States was resting squarely on their shoulders. Because if the 96 team won gold and captured the hearts of fans while doing it, the NBA was ready to pull the trigger and launch the WNBA. But if they failed on that Olympic stage, if they tripped up even once, the league was fully prepared to just scrap those plans entirely. No pressure, right?
And to truly understand how heavy that pressure was, you've got to look at the agonizing history leading up to 1996. The U.S. women had suffered through this incredibly frustrating string of third-place finishes on the world stage.
Yeah, just think about this timeline. Bronze at the 1991 Pan American Games. Bronze again at the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona. And then, another bronze at the 1994 World Championships. For an elite, hyper-competitive team constantly being stuck on the bottom step of that podium, it's pure agony. So, heading into the 96 Atlanta Olympics on their own home turf with the massive promise of a pro league dangling right in front of them, it was absolutely a do-or-die moment for everyone involved.
All right, so let's get into Section 1, building the dream team and preparing for the ultimate stage.
So because of those agonizing past frustrations and the crazy corporate stakes involved, USA Basketball knew they couldn't just throw an all-star team together a few weeks before the games. That's what they used to do, but it wasn't going to cut it this time. They took drastic, totally unprecedented measures to guarantee a win. And the cornerstone of that new blueprint? It all comes down to the number 18. That is the number of months this elite squad stayed together to prepare.
It was the opportunity of a lifetime for sure. But it demanded massive, life-altering sacrifices. Take Stanford coach Tara Vanderveer, for example. She literally stepped away from her incredibly successful college position, where she had just led the Cardinal to national championships, just to run this national team. Keeping a group of women together for an exhausting 14 to 18-month training run before the Olympics, that was virtually unheard of in the sport.
But what's so amazing is how that grueling time together actually forged them. Coach Vanderveer noted how all that forced proximity built their chemistry. As she put it, quote, "You're on the bus with everybody, you don't have cell phones, your real focus was the team."
That is such a great reminder of the 90s era, isn't it? I mean, try to imagine surviving a massive 14-month road trip on a bus with no smartphones today. No scrolling, no texting someone who wasn't there at event. It was just you, your teammates, brutal travel, nonstop work, and this absolute dedication to each other. Vanderveer said they were incredibly tired, but people did whatever it took to win that gold medal. That total isolation, it built an unbreakable sisterhood.
Moving right along to Section 2, a perfect 60, and dominating the globe. So the preparation and sacrifice were historic, but the real question was whether it would actually translate when the international bright lights came on. And oh man, it absolutely did. We are talking about total, unquestioned domination of the globe.
They started with a massive winter tour, basically barnstorming across the map, and put up an unbelievable 15-0 exhibition record.
Right, and they didn't slow down for a single second when they got to Atlanta. They just swept through the Olympic Games with a pristine 8-0 record.
Which brings us to that flawless 60-0 total record. They didn't just edge out the competition or win a few nail-biters here and there. They went completely undefeated against the entire world, and honestly, they kind of made it look effortless.
And while they were thoroughly dominating on the hardwood, they were making history up in the stands, too. 202,556. That is the record-breaking number of paying fans who turned out to watch this team during the Atlanta Games.
You really have to understand how critical that massive scale was at the time. This number was the ultimate proof of concept for the corporate world. For any television executive or sponsor who ever doubted whether women's basketball had a massive paying audience, well, there it was, in black and white. They were definitively more popular than any previous women's basketball team in history.
Which leads us to Section 3, Star Power on Court, and the Legends of '96. Look, you simply do not go 60-0 without some serious individual heroics. The depth of this roster was just incredible. Take Jennifer Azzi, the speedy backup point guard and former Stanford standout. In group play against Congo, she just erupted off the bench for 18 points, 3 assists, and 3 steals. And then there's the pure grit of someone like Ruthie Bolton. She started all 8 Olympic Games as their absolute defensive stalwart. In the gold medal game against the really dangerous Brazil team, she completely shut down their international star guard Paula, which helped the U.S. cruise to a massive 111-87 victory. That defensive intensity, that was the engine of this team.
But, okay, if we're going to talk about scoring explosions, we absolutely have to talk about the number 35.
Oh, for sure. This still blows my mind every time I think about it. Lisa Leslie dropped a historic 35 points in a single 40-minute game against Japan. To this day, literally decades later, that phenomenal performance still holds the 6th spot for the most points ever scored by a player in a single Olympic game.
And Leslie's dominance didn't stop with just that one game. She amassed 156 total points across the 8 games. That ranks as the 5th most by a women's player in a single Olympics. What really stands out to me is that when the pressure was at its absolute peak, she delivered. With that NBA ultimatum looming large over everyone, she led the USA in scoring in the super tense semifinals against Australia with 22 points, and then paced them again in the final against Brazil with 29 points. It was just a true masterclass in performing on the ultimate stage.
Let's jump to Section 4, Birth of Pro Leagues and the Economic Explosion. So, the gold medal was secured. The fans showed up in droves. The television ratings were undeniably there. Now it was time to see if that pre-tournament ultimatum from the NBA would actually be fulfilled. And it was fulfilled, and then some. Corporate sponsors began aggressively lining up to back the 1996 team. This huge rush of corporate interest was the exact signal the NBA needed. It proved long-term financial stability and viability. It created an immediate economic shockwave. The market for women's basketball was suddenly so hot that it didn't just spark one professional league, it sparked 2 competing leagues right out of the gate. That was completely unprecedented for the sport.
Let's take a look at the thrilling business rivalry that sprouted from this exact moment. On one side, you had the American Basketball League, or ABL. They capitalized on the momentum really quickly, launching in the fall of 1996. Their founders focused heavily on a fan-friendly culture with smaller, more intimate arenas, and they actually grabbed an initial advantage in player talent. But on the other side, you had the Women's National Basketball Association, the WNBA, which launched in June of 1997. They went a totally different route. They had the deep pockets and the huge financial backing of the NBA, and they opted for a summer schedule. So while the ABL had the early talent draw, the WNBA was strategically positioned to withstand the massive financial burdens of starting a brand new league from scratch.
What's truly fascinating here is the human element behind this sudden business rivalry. Think about it. You had teammates who just spent 18 grueling months together, locked in a gym or on a bus, suddenly becoming professional rivals recruited by competing businesses. Right. But as Coach Vanderveer pointed out, despite half the team going to play with one league and half with the other, there was never any division among the players. That unbreakable chemistry they built on those 90s bus rides held remarkably strong. Even when the multi-million-dollar business of basketball tried to pull them apart, they stayed a sisterhood.
And that brings us to our final section, a lasting golden legacy and changing the game forever.
We've seen how they launched the professional era here in America, but their impact on the global stage was just as permanent. And this number tells that story perfectly. 8. Just let that sink in for a second. The 1996 victory didn't just win one tournament. It completely erased all those frustrating bronze medals from the early 90s and sparked an absolutely unmatched dynasty. Exactly. Atlanta kicked off a staggering streak of 8 consecutive Olympic gold medals for the U.S. women's program. That is decades of absolute dominance. I mean, players like Lisa Leslie would go on to win 3 more golds herself, carrying that immense standard set by the 96 squad well into the new millennium.
That incredible legacy is summarized beautifully by Tara Vanderveer. She noted how they carried the weight of an entire sport's future on their shoulders, literally everywhere they went, and by bringing home the gold, they truly put women's basketball on the map in a completely different way.
They took a do-or-die ultimatum from the NBA, executed an impossibly grueling 60-0 run, and effectively birthed the modern era of the sport. It was flawless execution under the highest pressure imaginable.
Which leaves us with this final thought as we wrap up this explainer. The 1996 team sparked 2 pro leagues and an 8-gold dynasty, all because they delivered under intense make-or-break pressure.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, what impossible stakes are fueling tomorrow's sports revolution? Pressure can burst pipes for sure, but as the 96 Dream Team showed us, it can also forge diamonds. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll catch you in the next Explainer.